So it will be an intensive discussion. On the one hand side, we will go deeper inside this topic of mechanical chemical recycling. On the other hand side, we will also discuss a little bit what can be done to really ensure that this is also taking a lot of force, that it is going faster. Because we discussed today also, technology is one thing, but tonnage and really to have a new market is the other one. So last chair is there, perfect. So please come up. So warm applause to all of our panelists. So starting right now. We have got something like some rounds we want to do related to different questions and topics. Microphones are coming already now, perfect. And we want to discuss this. So it shouldn't be static. It should be an intensive discussion between all of us. And the first round is we all do not know all of our panelists here. So please have a 2 to 3 minutes introduction of yourself, of the company, and also, Peter, you also told there are some news also related. So if you have got any company news, also let us have the chance to listen to this. And we start with Willemijn. So please, first round.
Oh, thanks a lot. So my name is Willemijn Peeters. I'm the director of Searious business. It's a company that is helping to make plastic use more circular. So really focused on preventing plastic waste in the design phase and helping to reuse, reduce, and recycle. We work a lot with brand owners and retailers, but also with different players in the value chain in different regions. In Europe, obviously, the pressure is on due to legislation, but in other regions, it also makes sense to economically make that circle a round circle, so have a circular plastic use. And I'm here today to also stress the economic perspective, encourage everyone to have recycling as part of their integral part of their business model. And I'll also be talking about the elephant in the room a little bit later.
Yes, thank you. My name is Dirk Langhammer. I work for Borealis at the booth right behind you. I am responsible for Borealis's recycling activities. Borealis is the second largest polyolefin producer in Europe, soon to be the largest. We also have the largest recycling capacity among our virgin peers, and we are present along the entire circular plastic cycle. So we support our customers to develop products for circularity, so for reuse. Some of you may have had those coffee cups already that are here all around the fair. That's made of Borealis material, for reuse, for recyclability, and also for eco-efficiency. We also have circular applications for all, or circular solutions for all applications, so from mechanical recycling, chemical recycling, renewable-based feedstock, and even atmospheric carbon feedstock. And we also operate a number of mechanical and one chemical recycling plant in Europe. So we buy waste, we process it at our plants, and we turn it back as a recyclate. So it's fair to say that recycling is a core business for us. But let me say this also unequivocally, it has to be a business. So to Willemijn's point, it has to be something our customers need, and it has to be something that is economically viable. Now, those of us in the recycling industry will hopefully agree with me that the environment has been anything but viable for the last couple of years. It's been extremely difficult. Now, personally, I see a strong growth still ahead of recycling towards 2030. And the heavy lifting of this growth will still come from mechanical recycling. That is an established technology that has still a lot of innovation potential. Now, the role for chemical recycling is equally important, and it's sometimes described as taking care of those waste streams that cannot be mechanically recycled. But in my view, the true role of chemical recycling has to be understood from the market. And the market is in the market, it's an indispensable solution for food contact material. So for the future, and maybe to add that the we often have this waste cascade. Things should be first mechanically recycled and then chemically recycled. For someone who operates a chemical recycling plant, I can tell you, you need a certain quality of feedstock also for chemical recycling. Can't throw everything. If you have the periodic table of chemical elements in your feedstock, you will have it in your output. And getting it out there is a very expensive proposition. So for the future, we need both. And there's also enough waste for both. I think the hype for chemical recycling has definitely subsided. Now it's time for some industrial scale successes. And I have absolutely no doubt that Valentijn will deliver on those. A mechanical recycling's role, think of it as an established workhorse that still has a couple of new tricks to learn. That would be my introduction. Thank you.
So absolutely. So we have seen one thing. I don't like this word, but it's very easy to remember. It's shit in, shit out. So, and this is also for the chemical recycling. And when you've got a lot of shit in, you have to go down to the molecule. Then it's a gasification. You need a lot of energy to go down and a lot of energy to reconstruct the polymer chain. And this is always what we have to think of. So coming now to the next introduction.
Thank you very much. I'm Valentijn and Neve. I'm the CEO of BlueAlp. And what great to be here today. Walking here through the halls of K, it's impressive to see how big circularity seems to play a role. Almost every stand has something around circular products and circular propositions. And who would have thought that 7K shows ago, 20 years ago, when we started with our small dream. Our dream started in Switzerland, in the Alps, where we had a 3 kiloton plant with the dream of doing this at a scale of 300 kiloton. And that has made our technology philosophy for chemical recycling. We believe you need to have a continuous process that's scalable. Why continuous? Better process stability, cheaper. Why scalable? There are unit economics. If you scale it up, unit economics are better. So when we cracked that in Switzerland, the question was, what's next? And then we built our first 21 kiloton plant in Ostende, in Belgium. And when that plant started up, we realized for such a commercial plant, you need new partners. And that's why I'm very grateful that Shell and Borealis joined us as key partners. And I'm looking really ahead to next year, to 2026. Of course, there will be a lot around regulation that I'm sure we will be debating. But I'm also looking forward to the startup of our chemical recycling plant in Italy. RES, an Italian waste manager that has a landfill, that has sorting, that has mechanical recycling, will then also have chemical recycling. And I'm looking forward to discuss with all of us, how do we make sure that at least 60 more of these type of plants will be built in the next couple of years to make sure that we deliver on the PPWR promise.
Okay, perfect. So Peter, coming now to a global scale company, P&G, please.
Correct. I'm Peter Dziezok, bioeducational polymer scientist, and I'm from Procter & Gamble. Not a lot of people know Procter & Gamble typically when I tell this. We are a fast-moving consumer goods company, so we are neither in the plastic production nor in the recycling business, but you know our products. Pampers, Always All Days, Head & Shoulders, Pantene Pro V, Oral-B, Brown Razors, Ariel, just to name a few. And our purpose is to provide superior products and services that are of superior quality and value, improving the lives of our world's consumers, and now the important part, for now and generations to come. This is the critical part. We feel responsible to provide the consumer a product where he or she does not feel guilty about using it. And therefore, we are highly engaged in the solution of circularity. And that's the reason why we participate here in this panel, why we work in partnerships, because it's a big issue, why we founded together with other companies, the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, for example. And just yesterday announced a partnership with the company Lindner on a mechanical solvent extraction technology that we invented in-house. We own the IP, but as we cannot scale it up, we look for a partner, and that is Lindner. And together, I hope we will increase the availability of high quality and clean recyclates at an affordable price.
Okay, perfect. So, Benjamin Potters. It's Benjamin, that's now your turn.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome everyone, good afternoon. My name is Ben, I work at Trinseo. And believe it or not, there are other polymers outside of packaging, and these are polystyrene, ABS, polycarbonate, and PMMA, and these are wonderful polymers that we make, and we know best, and we try to give them a circular life. We do mechanical recycling, we do another technology which is called solvent-based recycling, I'll speak to that later, and chemical recycling to a monomer for these 4 polymers. And I hope I can bring some perspective of what's in between mechanical and chemical recycling, or is there anything in between that we need in the future?
Okay, so now we are coming to Adrián. So, Adrián, short introduction of the company and yourself.
Okay, thank you very much to everybody to attend this panel. My name is Adrián. I'm the leader of the mechanical recycling group at AIMPLAS. AIMPLAS is a particular organization. We are not a company. We are a technological center, a research center, non-profit, okay? And we work in all the chain value. We work of plastics, of course. We work with all type of plastics. We are divided in 2 big areas in AIMPLAS. The laboratories area that is focused in the testing and analysis, and in the technologies areas that we are focusing in the research and development, okay? In the technologies area, we have different clusters, and I work in the recycling cluster, okay? So in the recycling cluster, we have 3 different departments: the mechanical recycling group, chemical recycling group, and biotechnology group. And we work in different projects with subsidized at regional level, national level, or European level, and directly with different companies. Okay, our mission is to add value to the companies and help in their problems, in their materials, processes, or anything else.
Okay, perfect. So, Ingo Sartorius. Ingo, now it's your turn.
Yes, hello. My name is Ingo Sartorius. I'm a chemist. I have worked 25 years with this nice logo here called Plastics Europe. And since a little more than 3 years, I'm now the managing director of BKV. BKV is a competence center of the plastics industry. We are located in Frankfurt. And the shareholders of our limited enterprise are from plastics raw material producing industry, plastics converting industry, and plastics machinery. And the purpose of our enterprise is to run studies and projects. And the studies and projects we are doing are in the topic of sustainability, resource efficiency, circular economy, also recycling, and of course plastics in the environment. To give you an idea, we have just yesterday launched and published the study about global plastics flow, which is, I guess, very important to understand how is being plastics managed, and to give some facts and figures so that we have a kind of basement for our discussion. And of course, there are many more studies also with respect to chemical recycling, of course.
Okay, perfect. So coming to the first question. Willemijn, you can start, but you do not have to. So it's now up to you who is raising their hand first. So in a lot of times, also when I'm in Brussels, when I'm in Berlin, and when we as Fraunhofer are looking in this context to be a third party who is developing new processes, in a lot of times I listen to discussions how the system can rise and how we can get impact and how tonnage can really go on in this recycling, that we really have an impact. So now the question is it something between legislation and politics, or is it something of leadership of industry and new business models in industry that are not strongly related to politics, or is it a legislative game that we have to play, at least in Europe? A lot of guys here are from out of Europe, so I think this discussion is also interesting because one perspective is a European perspective, on the other hand side we have to discuss it globally. So big question, you have got time to think about this. Who wants to start? I see your mic.
I can start. I hope you can hear me well. What I think is that it's a duo, it's a tandem approach. So if in Europe you want to be competitive, and we can already feel the struggles and the challenges, if you want to be competitive in Europe and build a circular economy, we want to ensure as an industry that we have sufficient leaders that can understand that game and help to create the demand that is needed to move into a circular economy, because that will make us more resilient and less dependent on virgin resources from outside of Europe. And I think that's a crucial part. And of course, that will be supported if you have the right legislative framework. So currently, the pricing is a real issue if you're talking about either recycled content from mechanical or chemical recycling, or talking about reuse. It's really hard to compete with the current virgin plastic prices. So as long as there's no fair playing ground, no true pricing in, it's going to be really hard to get to that level that is needed to move into a circular economy. So I think what we would need is more bold leadership from industry that understands that recycling needs to be core part of their business model. Also, as a producer, that you need non-virgin resources in order to have a sustainable business and build that expertise and infrastructure in Europe. I think is a key element of making Europe more competitive. So I think you need both the push from the legislation, but mostly the pull from for like grand leaders within the industry.
Okay, who's next?
I can go next.
Okay.
Simple. So I think I'm listening to you, Willemijn, and I'm listening also to Valentijn, who rightly said, how impressive is it that we have the circular present across the entire K fair here. So there is a strong industry leadership. If you go to, I was just in Hall 9 to look at all the equipment there. This is all for recycling. I mean, this is extremely impressive, and this is something that Europe has created. I mean, this is not just European equipment suppliers there, of course, but it is really something that we can be proud of. Now, I fully agree that we need a regulatory framework that supports it on the demand side, simply because it's that price point versus virgin. It is also that initial investment that is required to change. We have that not just in recycling, we have it everywhere, where we try to follow the path of the energy transformation. So that is needed and that is unavoidable. Does it always have to be on European level only? No, it can also be on national level. And we just saw it in France, who, without a government, seemed to introduce the idea of a recycling contact in packaging for 2026. How impressive is that? So I think this is indeed a combination of both. Yes.
Okay, so Ingo, we switch to the end.
If I may be a little bit provocative, I fully agree. It needs both industry approach as well as, or either, but of course as well as a legislative framework. And I think it is not enough. It has to be supplemented by execution, because otherwise it won't work. We see that very clearly in Europe. You know how manifold Europe is. Of course, it is important to have a kind of framework, be it circular economy framework, be it waste framework directive, and so on, and all in these tiny bits and pieces, packaging, electrical, etc. But in each country, it has to be executed. And I guess that is one of the key messages also to many other regions and countries outside Europe, because there it's the same thing. You have to have a kind of country framework or regional framework, as you like, but it always has to be implemented nationally in the country by the execution authorities. And there I think it is of crucial importance to not only look at the theory, what gives the science book on the certain process or technical thing, but how is this being implemented in practice? And then it becomes interesting and complex together at the same time, because you have to understand where do these puzzle pieces belong to. Because when you want to do chemical recycling, you need a raw material. Where does that raw material come from? Oh, from a certain waste stream. You need to understand the waste legislation. And when you want to have an output from the chemical recycling, mechanical, whatever, you have to place a new product on the market. Suddenly, you have to deal with product regulation, substance law, and so on. So you need to combine all these, and both needs to be understood in this complex scenario. So I'm afraid the situation in practical world is a little bit more complex.
Okay, so we go on with Ben, because he was a little bit faster.
Okay.
Please, Ben.
Yeah. I'd like to take a step back and go back to the fundamental to ask ourselves, what's the valuable problem to solve? Why do we need a circular economy? I mean, you could make plastic and just burn it afterwards. And that's done for a lot of plastic. What's wrong with that? Yeah? And then I think we can all agree that plastic, it takes a lot of energy to make them. So you should keep them at that level as long and as much as possible, okay? If you'd say, no, the valuable problem to address is to move away from fossil oil as a feedstock, well, you could say, if we move away from mobility and from heating, we can make oil-based plastic still in 100 years. Or even 200 years. So what is the valuable problem to solve? And then you look into the applications, and yes, we have food packaging, which is, dare I say, a pretty simple composition. But then when you look into furnitures, appliances, automotive, you put 150 different polymers into an application, and then somebody needs to shred it and sort out some plastic. So how can you apply a process around it? So that is the question. What are we trying to solve? Do we have a problem in the way we treat our plastics? Do we want to keep them as long in the high value level as possible? Okay, then you can look into what can mechanical recycling do. Then you can build a nice case, what can other technologies do? And when you look around, you find enzymatic treatment, solvolysis, solvent-based recycling, solvent-based extraction. Was that right, Peter? Yeah, wonderful term. And many, many other things before you end up with pyrolysis and gasification. What we see is we have customers that say, I know that I put a lot of energy in a plastic that protects my product, and I want to reduce that. And they pay more for products that contain recycled content. These customers are not in Europe. These customers are in Asia. Why is that? Why is nobody in Europe saying, you know what? I know there's a lot of CO2 emitted for the product that I purchase from you. Why do I not try to reduce my carbon footprint and try to see what other opportunities are out there and still pay a little bit of premium? What's the affordability of that? And it's dare I say, it's a pity that we see so little initiatives in Europe there. What we see at the current state we're at with the advanced recycling is everybody's waiting for legislation. Okay, that seems to be the pusher. But then also, a recycling plant is a commitment for 20, 30 years. You don't ship a recycling plant from one place to another. So in that respect, it's a commitment and it's a big investment typically usually done. We see fundamental research being subsidized, and there's a lot of activities you can see around. Fraunhofer has wonderful examples, up to a technology readiness level maybe to 6, 7, but then it stops. But then the heavy investment starts, and that's where we see a lot of projects now having troubles to get the finance round for the first demonstration of flagship store. So that will be the recommendation for me. Also help on that last step to put it to TRL 9.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Valentijn.
So I believe in the panel there's a bit too much focus, from my view, on regulation and support from the government. And why do I say that? Actually, the direction of travel is clear. The PPWR is in effect, and yes, I like more of the details because they impact your business case. But you see that the direction is clear, that Europe wants more independence and more circularity. And also on the feedstock side, the regulation with ETS coming in on incineration will improve the economics of feedstock. So I'm a firm believer that the direction of travel is clear and that the key for us is actually to grasp the opportunity. And we and others have the technology at the right readiness level and see a huge opportunity to invest now. Because from earlier transitions, if you think around RPET, when the regulation came into force, that's when you have to fly up. That's where the ones who invested first had the best position. So I would say it's up to us.
Okay, strong statement.
Yes. Okay. Regarding the question, in my opinion, it's a mixture of everything. Because with the policy, you can legislate, and you can legislate to promote the sustainability and the recycling of plastics. Okay. For example, I want to put an example of Spain. In Spain, we have a tax for the non-reusable packaging. So if the manufacturers introduce some percentage of recycled material, they can discount this percentage for the tax. Okay, so and it's the same if the origin is the mechanical recycling or the chemical recycling. So with this legislation, I think that it's a good way to promote the recycling of plastic and the correct management of the waste. Okay.
Let me add one more point and maybe put the consumer into the room. That's what we always ask ourselves. What is the consumer demanding? A product that is safe. And safe means I have a safety relevant part of a car. I have a food package. I have a diaper for my most precious member of the family. I have a toothbrush that I put in my mouth. So I need different quality grades. And to be on the safe side, I take virgin-like quality. So I think for us, for the industry, and I look at the recyclers, they are up to produce a recyclate where they can say for absolute safety, or they're absolutely sure that this is safe to use. So contaminants are very low or non-detectable. The product is delivering exactly as expected, and of course at an affordable price. And this is now the contradiction that we need to solve, either as an industry or hopefully with help of legislators. That's how I see it. So for me, the answer to your question, it needs to go hand in hand.
Okay, so perfect. I see there are, I think, 2 balls in the game, and the one ball is legislation. The second ball is industry that is pushing, that is really going inside. You told it consumer, but what about the society? So isn't there a chance to really have something like an enthusiasm for polymers, for circular economy, because it's a great material on the one hand side, it is a great idea of being circular, but what pushers do we need to bring society behind these large projects that people on the street say, yeah, we want to have a circular economy, perhaps like also people say we want to have a valuable, high-priced pullover or shoes or a nice watch or a nice car or a nice bicycle. A lot of people of us have their perspective on products and spend money for this. So how could this work that we really say, okay, that we bring the society behind this project of this polymer and also circular economy project? Do you have ideas in the round how we could change the view? Because we discussed a lot. Virgin material is low priced and we have to get higher price for virgin material, or we have to lower the price, but it's always the price game thing. What about the value? Valentijn.
So I think if you want to convince society, what will not work is run a large media campaign. I think what works is showing that it's actually something that people want and that it works at scale. So I would say, as an industry, we need to do 2 things. 1, make sure that we demonstrate at scale so that people get the products in their hand and they actually feel, and there are actually quite some good examples out here if you look around. And I think that helps in education of customers and consumers what it really is. The other part, I believe there's an opportunity for Europe. Petrochemicals is not doing brilliant at the moment in terms of margins in Europe. Mechanical recyclers are not doing brilliant. But as a society, when I talk to my neighbors or my family, everybody wants that their waste is not being shipped away, is not burned, but recycled. So if with regulation we push and we favor European waste-based recycled content, I do believe that's a win-win for the industry and for society.
Okay, so we have one statement. Are there other statements regarding society? Peter?
I believe what we need to do is earn trust with the consumer. Trust is the most important. And I believe here on the stage, we are in alignment that we need complementary technologies, starting from mechanical to solvent-based, all the way to chemical, depending on the contamination of your waste, the feedstock, so to say, and the desired application. And as long as NGOs, industry, regulators have different opinions, what should the consumer trust? What should they believe? And I think this is the difficulty. There's one extreme position claiming mechanical is the only truth, because this is lowest carbon footprint, and that's what you should do. However, in the LCA analysis, nobody is looking at the quality of the polymer. Nobody is looking at the level of contaminants. This is not part of the calculation. And this is already difficult for us as the experts. Again, how do you want to convince the consumer? And therefore, coming back, I think it needs to go hand in hand. The industry speaking hopefully at one point with one voice, educating the consumer, trying to convince, and legislation putting the right framework around so that it's a level playing field, that it's clear what can you claim for your product, what are you not allowed, and this all together then hopefully move to a next understanding in the society.
Okay, so a statement for trust and understanding and education also of the customer. So more ideas.
May I
Ingo.
directly supplement on the trust? I fully agree, it's a key thing. But again, it's complex. We may remember, or some of you may remember, there was in German a TV broadcasting, the recycling lie. And I think that is so important to analyze what happens there. And I believe the consumer are simple people. So they want to have it simple. And if we have an opportunity into the future to simply say, make it easy. All your products are being in the shop sent for circularity. Fantastic. Then the consumer should simply throw it in the right bin and it will be circularized. That would be work excellent. But then I may raise the question, why have we found out in our studies that there is more than 300,000 tons of plastic packaging in the residual bin? And that is so important to better understand because we know what happens then. It will be incinerated in municipal solid waste incinerator. So the consumer would like to have a consistent scheme so that the recyclable plastic packaging, for example, can be many more products, I fully agree, is then recycled in reality as well. And therefore, why is it so complex? You need to put together all these different systems. And it's about the collection schemes. And then we need to understand who is the waste owner. The operators partly are privately entrepreneurs and partly municipal entrepreneurs. And this is a very crucial situation because this situation is different in each country. Even across Europe, we do not have a uniform scheme. So let's go into these bits and pieces, try to better understand. And if we are able to make progress, at least in the private entrepreneurs' waste schemes, and be consistent that then the material is being really recycled, then you can regain the trust again. I think it's so important. So let's have consistent schemes. It will demand work because you have to collaborate with all these related stakeholders. So collaboration of stakeholders is also one of the key aspects we need to bring circular economy forward, of course. Thank you.
Okay, so Valentijn, you also, but do we have something like an enthusiasm for this? Is there a formula that people really want, not just say trust and it's cool and so on, but really something in this direction? What is your...
So I actually just wanted to disagree with the position that was made there, because I believe, yes, there's still a bit of plastic waste in the residue bin, what should be somewhere else, but at the moment a lot that is collected separately is still being burned. So it's absolutely good to improve it, but it's not what we need now. That's a cherry on the cake. And is there enthusiasm? When I talk about BlueAlp or with family and friends, they're super enthusiastic. If I look here at K, the conversations that are around sustainability are, I think, the more exciting conversations for all of us. So I think the excitement is there, and it's more around putting the steel on the ground.
Yeah, I would like to back that as well. I think it's important. We shouldn't point fingers at anyone. I think the best way societies speak is usually through their election system, and a lot of the countries that have come together have spoken through their representatives and have said that over 200 countries have said they want to phase out fossil fuels. And 16 countries have already said they want to start phasing out subsidies to fossil fuels. So that direction is clear. COP is coming up. People want to have CO2 reductions. Recycled plastics has that potential to reduce CO2 emissions as well. So if you're talking about how do you nudge societies in a certain way, people get triggered by basic core emotions like pride is one and fear is one. And there's a lot of fear around the current use of plastics and especially the virgin plastics. And I think if you want to feed into the core emotion of pride and of being independent and freedom, I think we have a huge opportunity here again in Europe to build that economy, and then you shouldn't be holding back and embrace it as a business opportunity for sure. Because I think that is one of the very strong messages that have come across here at the Cape, but elsewhere as well, that there's huge opportunities, but we need to create the demand, and there's a core part of the puzzle to be made here.
Okay, so Ben, it's your turn.
Yeah, thank you. 2-3 other thoughts. I think circular economy can also create a lot of interesting new jobs, can embrace a lot of new business concepts, moving away from selling a product but leasing a product, having access to your product end of waste, and last but not least, you build up a lot of resilience. I mean, I've been looking at a stream where you had a polymer combined with a magnet, and out of a sudden that brings me into the world of magnet recycling. It's something that is, if dare I say, very alien to me and didn't know anything about metals. I'm deeply in love with carbons. So it brings new industries together, it creates new jobs, it opens new business models. I think that's exciting. Huh?
I think these are very good pusher arguments, so definitely I hope you also feel this, because we are all part of society. Our world is going around polymers, so I think we need the explanation, like you told it in your family and friends. You explained this, so I disagree a little bit, because you said one answer ago, we do not have something like a media campaign. I think a media campaign done in a very well thing should also be something that is giving a message that you are doing inside your family, because most of the people cannot explain these enthusiastic stories. But perhaps, is there one last thing about this? Or should we switch to the next topic? One last.
So I do have to say that I see more trust in plastics than fear, Willemijn. Certainly, yeah. As Peter said, we put it in our mouth, we wrap it in our food. It's part of our everyday life, so clearly we trust this. I also agree with Valentijn that a media campaign alone is not going to do it. And it's also not, I mean, the whole idea of energy transformation and plastic recycling, a better use of our resources is certainly a key part of this. It's become part of our everyday life. We see it in our products. We see it in how our kids are educated at school. Yeah, I mean, I observe that when I see the topics my kids talk about at school. Recycling has a positive connotation. It doesn't have a negative connotation. At least I haven't come across that. Recycling, for me, is a positive word, and whoever I speak to, at least at the K Fair, wants to do more in it. I think what we are struggling with is the pace of it, and I would love nothing more than it goes faster. But I'm an optimist, and I do see that with the help of the PPWR and other regulation, we are certainly going to accelerate this, and it's not going to create fear, it's going to create more trust.
Okay, perfect. Coming to a fast round, because we have a time limit on the one hand side, and we want to really push some topics. We've got a lot of different perspectives on chemical, mechanical recycling and the circular economy right now. So, but at the end, we discuss a lot, and the tonnage we need is coming, but the question is how fast. So, what is hindering? What is hindering to really have this multi-billion investments in recycling capacity? What is your point of view as a short answer? Most important reason.
As I said, it's core to our business, but it needs to be a business. The customer needs to want it, and it needs to be economically viable. That means a certain price level or a certain low feedstock level is required here, and I don't really care what gives. As Valentijn said, at the moment we are exporting some of our waste. If we keep that here in Europe, we can make a very good business out of it, and some export parity doesn't set the floor on any falling feedstock price. And then we can also produce at the cost of virgin. It's possible, but it needs to be economically viable, and that's just not the case at the moment.
If I need to choose one, I choose permits. I believe there's the willingness to invest, but what we see with a lot of projects that permits in Europe, in most countries, take too long, which delays the big investment you're talking about.
Points.
I think we should not make it harder in Europe versus the rest of the world. And what I have in mind, for example, is a mass balance approach that you need for chemical recycling. In the US, you have free allocation. And that means if you feed pyrolysis oil in a cracker and you're responsible to raise 1 ton of petrol with 1 ton of pyrolysis oil, you can attribute this 1 ton to the output and claim, I was responsible for this 1 ton. When I look at Europe, we have not yet aligned on a mass balance approach, and the one that is under probably has the highest chance to be put in law is the fuel use excluded. And that means that roughly 50% is going directly into fuel, and therefore basically it will be twice as more expensive versus the US. And the question, again, what is the overall objective? Is it defossilization? Then I don't mind where my recycled content is flowing to, as long as it's kept in the circle. As long as I do not rely on petrol, it should be fine. And therefore, how do we progress? We need to have the laws in place to have security in the investment. Again, we need to earn the trust. I think I want to stress it, earn the trust, because trust you cannot just claim that you have it or put an advertisement. And the consumer, of course, on the other hand, need to be willing also to invest more. And when is the consumer willing? If the consumer is getting a superior product of improved value. So it's not a question, is it recycled, yes or no? But ideally, it's recycled and it delivers a benefit. Then the consumer is willing to pay more.
Okay, Adrián and then Valentijn.
Yes, I think that this is the question. What is the objective? No, the real objective of each country, for example. The invest, of course, is one of the keys, but if one country not offer different subsidies, this invest is too difficult. So for me, this is the question. What is the real objective? To promote the sustainability, the recycling, or another interest?
Okay.
Yeah. So I have to disagree.
Please.
I have to disagree with you on mass balance. I'm a fan of the current mass balance that's in the draft, and I can tell you why. To the European one. I think, first of all, it's clear that what we want is materials to materials. We want circularity. And then you need to put the incentives to maximize recycling. Second part is you talk about trust. If I need to explain to friends and family that there's a package that says this is circular material, but actually most became fuel, that's pretty tough to explain and to earn trust.
Ben.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have so much experience on packaging, so I'd like to embrace the discussion more to durable goods, think about automotive, appliances, and so forth. These waste streams have a longer lifespan, in particular for my right neighbors. They're very nice. And hence, the waste stream is not as big as food packaging is. That hasn't hit anybody by surprise. What we struggle a lot is getting a significant critical mass of these volumes in, and that means shipping products across country. And cross-country waste shipment is is sometimes managed on a national level, sometimes even on a regional level. That makes it very cumbersome for us to get sufficient feedstock. So if I one go, I would say harmonized waste shipment regulation.
Ingo?
That is exactly I would like to agree upon, and my answer would be simplification of the bureaucracy as urgent as possible, because what chemical recycling demands is speed up. And as we know, speed up is not so easy. With respect to your argument on costs or your argument on permits, I would supplement with the next argument, which is infrastructure. There is namely not only the chemical recycling, there's also mechanical recycling, energy recovery. And if we go into other countries, even we have to consider landfill. And I think this is something where, in my view, European should immediately do its homework. In 2018, they have launched the European Circular Economy Strategy. Unfortunately, with the legislative package, and unfortunately, it is still allowed until today, even until 35, even 2040, to landfill untreated plastics waste. This is an absolute mess. Who is going to have a motivation to invest in anything if waste would be detoured in such a route? So we have to make sure that these legislative rules go hand in hand and coincide together. So, and then it will be established that we have this infrastructure with mechanical recycling, physical recycling, and so on, and all the other methods which we need for the circular economy.
Maybe it's as easy as you said at the start, like no shit in, no shit out, right? So you didn't have very strict, you should need to define what the shit is, but at least you don't get any shit in and you don't have any shit out. And that means that you will have to arrange whatever you have in terms of materials within that geography. Maybe that's that easy.
That's perfectly connecting to the next question, but Peter is raising the microphone because I also see shit in, shit out is related to products. Products is related to product design. Product design is related to materials. So we will close this loop in the next minutes. But Peter...
Just one sentence, because I might have been misunderstood. Our position is mass balance, fuel use excluded, clearly. What I want to point out is, if other regions do it differently, this will lead to a different price. How can you earn trust if there is not a common understanding in the world? And that, for me, is a problem.
Okay. So a very short thing from my side. As a little brain food, I don't know, and I would be happy. How is your perspective on this topic? When we have water, and after the water treatment, when it's coming out of the water treatment plant, it is water again, not reward or something like this. When polymers are coming out of a chemical recycling, it's a recyclate. So I always wonder why we call it recyclate. Because coming back to society, I'm a mechanical engineer, but I like society. Society, when you mention the word recyclate, in a lot of times it's something that is not so highly seen as the virgin material. So why do we call this in this way? Should there be a rebranding? And we have got chemical recycling experts also here. Shouldn't we the polymer called polymer afterwards?
Yes, absolutely. A plastic is a plastics, regardless raw material, be it a secondary raw material, a renewable raw material, or if you look into the future, and you have the examples here at this trade fair as well, let's take the CO2 from the air and make new plastics again. But of course, you know, the devil is in the detail. If you want to have these legislators, they all want to know bits and pieces. And Absolutely. That is exactly the discussion we have.
Okay, perfect, Ben.
Yeah. I think we have to be very careful with the word. A product that companies sell here in form of a granule contains a plastic and additives. And I can speak for the polymers I know best. We have several grades, and I guess for PP and polyethylene it's just the same. And then you all end up in recycling, so you have hundreds, thousands, maybe 10,000 different grades. So how do you know when you recycle something what the true nature is, and how you make sure you fulfill certain regulations? I think that's the tricky part. Why we still perceive plastic from recycling as a lower value than virgin, because you don't know exactly what the formulation is, and then all the regulation burden comes beyond it is impacted by that.
Okay.
I find this discussion honestly a little bit weird because recycling is a positive word. Why would I hide that? Why would I not want to go out and say that it's recycled? There's nothing wrong with it. On the contrary. Yes, it's not as good as virgin if it's mechanically recycled, and it is virgin-like when it's chemically recycled. But so what? I mean, part of the selling proposition of recycled material is that it is recycled, and so you want to put it on a package. In fact, many of our customers insist that they put a little badge on it and say, hey, this is recycled, dear customer, I want you to know this. And not because I want to scare you, but because I want to show you that I'm engaged. So I would say you should maybe leave that to the respective customer who actually puts his product into it and says, I want to make that clear, or I don't.
Perfect perspective on this topic, and you agree?
I very much agree. I think actually, if you walk to any of the stands or the Borealis stand, I think they do an excellent job in branding the chemical and mechanical recycled elements. I don't think that the branding is the issue we have in the industry.
If you put a product on the shelf, the consumer needs to decide between A, B, and C. So you want to claim what is different versus the others. If all of them have the same, you are by law not entitled to claim it. But if one is using a recyclate, now use the name, the other one virgin-like material, then it's a difference. And then you can claim it, and then you can tell the consumers, now you have a choice between petro-based or once or how many times used before. And I think that's the reason why this word recyclate is in the market. From a chemist, and I'm a proud chemist, point of view, it's a polymer chain, it's a carbon chain, whatever it is, yes. And there's no difference in naming and chemistry.
Perfect. So we all agree on this here in this bubble of polymer experts, and I think society is coming and pushing this also, so I have strong hope that we have got a very big and positive chance there. So coming to the next topic. I do not want to discuss packaging material for this point now. So we are coming to higher valued products, whatever it is, but not packaging. So what is your perspective on what I say now? When we are coming product to waste, it is something strongly connected to legislation. When we come product to a circular design in a higher valued product, then it is something with new business models and a strong push also from the industrial side regarding also the consumers. So how is your perspective on this topic? Is it right? So circular design has something to do with the handling afterwards?
Yes, in my opinion, the first point is the first important point is the education, and the second is the design for recycling. The circular design is very, very, very important because if you have a monomaterial product, PET product, okay, for example, but this product is black, okay. When this product arrives to the classification plants, it's not detected for our technologies, our actual technologies. So it's a monomaterial, it's from PET, okay, it's perfect, but it's black. So this is one part of the design for recycling, okay. The same with the multi-layer films, for example. Is the composition is PET, aluminum, PE, for example, but we can't detect this type and we can't separate this type of product, these waste streams in the selection plants, and this type of products goes to the landfill. So, in my opinion, the design for recycling is the most important part in the design of the product.
Okay.
Yeah. As you recommended, moving out of packaging, what is designed for recycling? If you think about a product that goes into an automotive car or in a building in construction, the lifespan might be 20, or in building and construction, maybe 30, 40 years. How is the recycling infrastructure built in 20, 30, 40 years? Nobody can predict that. So I always hear this monomaterial, but look around, which application is a monomaterial? None. None. So what's the purpose of this? And there will always be a need for differentiation. And how do you do that? You make a fancy design, make new materials, make maybe out of foam, or maybe a nice textile to make it look shiny, nice, glossy, matte, whatever that may be. And that differentiation shall remain. So it's difficult to answer for durable goods. What does design for recycling mean? If somebody asked me that today and somebody asked me that in 2 years from now, my answer might be completely different. So I struggle to answer that in its entirety.
Okay, perfect. So, Dirk.
So I invite you to come to our booth over there and look at some of the examples where design for recycling is at the core. We actually call it design for circularity, because design for recycling is only the last stop. It actually starts with design for eco-efficiency. That means, for instance, it's thin-walled as possible, use as little material as possible. Design for reuse means it can be used many times, and that of course includes not just the design but also the collection system and so on. And then design for recycling is really that it is a monomaterial. And the development we've done with polyolefins over the last decades on how much we can actually achieve with a monomaterial solution is extremely impressive. And that is not just true for packaging. It's also true for, let's say, cable jacketing. It's true for automotive parts. We are thinking today already what happens when that comes back. That is the whole purpose of design for circularity. That's where that circular value cycle starts.
Yeah, I fully agree. I also love the work that we've been doing together in that space. And it's about 10 years ago that I started with design for circularity for a furniture company, where we really took a good look at their best-selling products. So I'm not a polymer engineer. I come from business. I talk money. So what their best-selling model was doing, that made it from a fully circular feedstock point of view, and also making sure that it was circular at the end. So looking at the feedstock was just making use of their take-back materials, making a new mix that was recyclable, 3D printing that, so it was adjustable, having only take-back materials that would be the foaming and the fabric that would no longer be stapled or glued or whatever that would be behind ridges, because that 3D model of the print made it possible. So you could, in the meantime, over the lifespan of that product, you could replace the cover of the sofa. You could replace the foaming if you have had small kids who weed all over it. You could replace different parts. So it's designed for modularity. It's designed for circularity as well, because once the product was at the end of its life, people were incentivized to return the frame at least. They would get a deposit back, and they would be able, as a manufacturer, shred that and reprint it again in a different format. So that would have all the elements needed to not have any waste at the end. And they won the biggest tender ever with that, to make it, also make that statement that it's not just a circular design, it is smart business as well. So I am fully on board on design for circularity. I fully believe in that part of being instrumental to change for a circular economy.
I would very much supplement that, and I like your keyword feedstock, because as you were asking the question, let's think beyond the packaging. It simply opens up thinking out of the box. And that clearly means it is not a topic of a special product, be it packaging or whatever. It is a question about raw material and resources. And that was the argumentation and the motivation for the circular, also to have our resources being recaptured. And the chemical recycling has the power to do that. We know that there are plants who are able to recycle old tires, for example. And why not simply use that products and put it again into a new plastic product or whatever opportunity there is. So have the power to broaden the scope of the raw materials and the resources. It nicely fits to the feedstock. And that is a fantastic opportunity to expand the circular economy for other sectors as well.
I'd like to add one point. Fully agree with what you said, but I'd like to add that product sustainability or a sustainable product is even more. And what I mean with this is when I look at our diapers, over the last 20 years, we have reduced the weight by 50%. So the materials get more efficient. Secondly, when I think about an Oral-B toothbrush, it is easily to repair nowadays, so it can last longer. And once it has achieved the final step, then exactly what you said. So we think in the hierarchy, avoid at the beginning the material. If you have it in the product or in the usage cycle, keep it as long as possible. And then if you need to recycle, then it should be as efficient as possible.
Okay, so coming to the next round, packaging material is in again. So it is a panel about mechanical and chemical recycling. So what is this minimum operating space or this minimum that you see to have a maximum impact? So is it something of one company? Is it something about some companies are working together? Is it Germany perhaps or the European Union? And what about this? We have got global resources and a multipolar world growing on. And how can we put this together? So what is the minimum scale you see for really getting impact?
So I think if we look in the current world, thinking that we can get to one harmonized approach across the globe is maybe a bit naive. What I think that we need to prepare for, and I think we see that across all industries, that in Europe we organize in a certain way to enable a powerful Europe. But let's be honest, if you think about chemical recycling capacity, in the US there's at least as much capacity currently as in Europe. And if I look at South Korea and Japan, quite a bit is happening. So I would say looking only at the national level does not make sense in a European context. I think globally we'll see a drive towards circularity, but with a different path, just like in the energy transition. And given that we're here today in Düsseldorf, I would say I would focus on a European perspective that we have a clear level playing field with European rules, and we will see that our chemicals and waste network is simply connected in Europe. And that's why we will need to make sure that, I think as we all now do in the value chain, we set up this value chain across borders.
Okay, so at least Europe.
May I ask a question? You said there such a capacity in the US. But why have we found out with our global plastics flow that in the US there's only a recycling rate of 10%? Even China is much better. You have an explanation?
So in this case, I'm focusing on the chemical recycling. I think if you look at the US, the size of the mechanical recycling market in Europe versus the US, then Europe has a way larger share of mechanical recycling. And if you look in the chemical recycling, then there are quite a number of plants operational that do have serious capacity. If you ask me if I need to place a bet in 3 years' time, where is there more operational capacity, I bet on Europe.
I'm not sure. I don't want to bet on this. I like data. So I think it depends on the demand. I can't really say like it's just Germany or it's just Borealis and needs to get his work together. I would like to say that it is really based on the demand. So if you have enough demand for chemically or mechanically recycled plastics, that's where you base your factories and your decisions on your infrastructure. If there's no demand, like you see, all recyclers go bankrupt. So I think it really depends on the level of which you can encourage the demand.
Yeah, I would complement this. So we need if you want a recipe, create demand through a simple, stable framework that everyone understands and can follow. Remove administrative hurdles, like what Valentijn said earlier about permits and waste transfer across borders and so on. And then let business and technology ingenuity run its course, because you don't need that much more. Yeah, but you need to create that market and you need to create the framework to operate in it. And then we are ready to invest and run.
Okay, done with this question. Perfect. So, coming to the next one. We all agree, I think, that mechanical and chemical recycling has to go hand in hand. And in a lot of times in discussions, it is told, okay, we need the mechanical recycling, and what cannot be mechanically recycled goes then to any of these other technologies. It is relatively easy to tell this should go hand in hand. On the other hand side, you always have to deliver something from one point to another, or you have got something like a recycling technology facility where all is integrated. Then it's relatively easy. But what is your perspective on hand-in-hand and mechanical first, as long as sensible, and then going this cascade to first have the solvent-based, and then have the pyrolysis, and then have the gasification, and it all looks very nice in pictures we are showing inside Fraunhofer, how this works. But what is the reality? How should this look like? Dirk, start.
So here's the reality. Today, we use feedstock for mechanical recycling that would clearly be labeled also for chemical recycling in the future. So thinking of recycling as a disposal technology of waste streams misses the picture that it's about a product that you want to bring to the market. If you want a chemical recycled, it's the indispensable solution for food contact material. And you have to work back from there to the feedstock you can actually take in. And as I said before, I'm using slightly less strong words here, periodic table in, periodic table out. Yeah? So that's what you have to deal with. And for mechanical recycling, it's the same thing. You want to get to a certain product. You want to get to, I don't know, a structural part in a construction site, or you want to get to an interior car part or under the bonnet or some packaging. That determines how you treat your product and how you mechanically recycle it. That's how you have to look at it. So this idea that there is someone steering where the waste streams go and which technology comes first and second, it's a nice concept, but it doesn't work.
I fully agree with what Dirk says, that in the end, it is not only about the waste, but also the product. And even the PPWR and the current mass balance recognizes that it's also around the product you make. But I think it's not only nice pictures that are made at Fraunhofer. The ones who do not believe that mechanical and chemical recycling are complementary, I would like to invite to Italy. There you see on one side the waste coming in. There's a mechanical recycling site that mainly takes the rigids. And a lot of the multi-layer films, of the flexible packaging, which is harder to mechanical recycle, all goes to the pyrolysis plant. So I think it's not only pictures, but this is an entrepreneur. Someone from the waste management business who says, my overall business case becomes better if I combine both.
Perfect. Ben.
Thank you. I'd like to spin this a bit around. I do agree that we need a cascade of technologies, and I think at the moment, for me personally, this jump to chemical recycling is done too quickly. If I think about mechanical recycling, which is established, I think we don't have to spend a lot of time there. Indeed, solvent-based or solvent-based extraction is a very neat next step. And in fact, we demonstrated, and the Pure Cycle did the same with polypropylene, that we can actually reach food contact compliance. And we keep a polymeric nature in its polymeric state. We don't go back to a naphtha or a syngas. No, we leave a polymer chain intact. So for me, that has a higher value than putting it into a pyrolysis project. Then for other chemistry, maybe solvolysis makes sense, or enzymatic treatment. That is out of my reach. I only know this for polymers. And of course, when you go into a dissolution-based process, there are things that dissolve and there are things that do not dissolve. And these can be then later treated by the third step. And this is how you should look at it, to me, saying you go mechanical recycling and the next is pyrolysis. That's a bit too quick. I think you should also look into other technologies, in particular when you move out of packaging.
Yeah, but it has to be an economic case, and so I think nobody will use everything in gasification because it makes no sense, except this, what can just go to a gasification. So I also see it in the way that how you explained it, that it has to be a business case, and mechanical, as long as you can do and use the mechanical recycling to catch the quality, I think everybody will do this. Ingo.
Yes, absolutely. It has to be a business case. We have performed an techno-economic assessment for the chemical recycling where we explicitly have looked at the pyrolysis as well as gasification. And we have analyzed different kinds of waste streams with that regards, and the result is more or less that the chemical recycling costs are a little bit below energy recovery in Germany with respect to the municipal solid waste incinerators. So that means this is the motivation for the one who is being today sending his waste, mixed complex waste to energy recovery. It could be better to recycle it chemically, of course. But it also shows, as I said, it's slightly below the cost of energy recovery. It is still much more attractive to go for mechanical recycling. And I think that is a very important result because it gives us a kind of indication. And then let's look at the practice. Who decide which mechanical or chemical recycling route is being taken? Sometimes it's the waste owner in which way the waste is being collected, and sometimes it's the treatment operator. So if there's a sorting plant and the sorting operator says, okay, of course I catch out waste streams which can easily be recycled mechanically, excellent, he will do it. But he will invest also in innovation and modern technologies also for the mechanical recycling. So I'm convinced personally that mechanical recycling will increase in the future as well. But on top of that, there will be always material streams still being mixed and soiled that goes to energy recovery. And that is the case where chemical recycling comes into play because it gives him even an economic advantage. And in my view, this is a fantastic synergy because he has a business case and he has an environmental case on being more fully circular. So that is really a fantastic motivator to go for, I would even say, recycling under one umbrella, not even dividing whether type of recycling it is.
Yeah, first of all, I work in the mechanical recycling department, okay? So, in my opinion, I believe that the mechanical recycling should always be the first option, okay? Because it's more efficient in economic and energetic terms, okay? But probably if we treat a multi-layer film only with a mechanical treatment, we don't obtain a good result. So this is the complementarity between mechanical, physical bisolvents or chemical recycling. In the example of the multi-layer films, first step, selection, mechanical. The second step, the shredding and washing, mechanical treatments. After this, the dissolution of the adhesive, for example, by physical or chemical, depending on the type of adhesive of layer. And after this, we have to separate the laminated layers, mechanical treatment. So where is the line? I don't know, but I think that they are complementary in the most of cases.
Okay, so fast round again. PPWR, in a very short point of view from your side. PPWR, is it really pushing? Is it enough? Is it also enough to have high investments that need decades sometimes and have to work and so on? So what is your perspective on PPWR?
I think it's fantastic. It sets the right framework. If you ask me, there's all this secondary legislation from PPWR. Where's the one I would like to focus most on? Now mass balance is almost done. I would focus on the mirror clause. How do we deal with imports? That we have a fair level playing field in Europe, that the rules that we have for our industry here will be complied with on what we import and enforced.
When I talk to the packaging industry and ask them what is their opinion about PPWR, they are all very happy because they say now we have planning reliability. But there's a big but, and that is about the delegated acts. There are so many open questions. It must not be the recycling topic. We have still an open question about recyclability at scale. What does it mean? There are targets set in that directive where it is today fully unclear how these targets can be achieved. So there is a high demand to clarify so that industry and, of course, administration is able to understand how this can be proved, how can this be achieved. And there are many more examples, not about the recyclability or the recycling as such, even reuse. So many open questions. We should not forget that reuse is also a part of the full story for circular economy. So let's consider that as well. So still open questions, and I very much hope that the omnibus, like a pouring gun, would not stop these discussions, but even fulfill these discussions with solid, sound facts, so that industry has a clear guidance to continue with a clear, let's say, industry motivation and planning reliability, as we all need it.
I fully agree. You need reliability in order to do investments, right? So for me, as a game changer, I don't think PPWR is ambitious enough. I think it's been watered down a lot. It's most lobbied piece of legislation ever in the European Union. So I think if we would embrace it more as an industry, as the opportunity it represents, I think it will get us even further. A lot of the targets are in 2030, and recycling is suffering now. So that is a big challenge, I think, also for reuse. There's no infrastructure net yet. There's a lot of targets, and it's not ambitious enough, if you ask me, and too far away in the future. So I'm really asking everyone to just embrace it and indeed like see this as a business opportunity and integrate it in your business, because this is the way forward.
Yeah, so I can understand where you're coming from. I would still say I'm fully with Ingo here that it does provide a very clear framework that is helpful. Yes, it needs to be broken down into delegated acts. That's always a very tedious business. But it does provide, here with Valentijn, it is a fantastic piece of regulation that helps us to now invest into it, helps our customers to follow through, and we can work with our customers. We will work with how our customers adapting this. So it's not as fast as we would have liked to, and maybe not as fast as we thought it would go a couple of years ago, but it's coming. There's absolutely no question around this. I would also agree on the mirror clause. Those of you who don't know what that is, it means that recycled material can only come into Europe when it is produced at the same conditions as we demand it to be produced in Europe. And that is an extremely important piece of legislation. Because, Peter, as you said, some have a 100% mass balance approach, whereas others is fuel exempt. That, of course, is a distortion of economics at the end of the day. Whether you agree with one or the other thing doesn't matter, really. It just needs to be mirrored. And that is indeed fully agree with Valentijn here.
Okay.
At Trinseo, we are exposed only on polystyrene, so it's fairly limited. Okay, that's no. I mean, compared to the other products, we're more into automotive and other markets. So I think it's okay from our point of view. I think what the missed opportunity is that you have the export ban of waste packaging not being synchronized with the kick-in of the PPWR, so you lose essentially 3-4 years. I think that's a missed opportunity.
Okay, so time is nearly over, and I've got one last round for this. So when we look at the renewables, first solar cells, first wind turbines, and so on, it took decades until we really felt impact in the energy system. When we now see, for example, circular economy gap report and so on, we see around 7% and so on. So looking at the 10R strategies, looking at new business models, and get an understanding of circular economy as a new system, a new business system, and not just something with recycling. When do we really see impact? Do we have to wait for decades, or do you have trust and hope that it's faster, and why? As a short answer.
I think hope dies as last, right? So I have a lot of hope. And I think we can all make a difference, and maybe the impact also starts here today, or continues to start today. So I think also from my part, in a sort of final call to action, I would like to pull up a slide and ask everyone to also encourage more recycling in the industry, to see it as an integral part of your business. For that, we have also teamed up with Plastics Europe to have an elephant in the room. And in this slide, you see a QR code. You can ring the bell for recycling, just to bridge the gap to the PPWR and other types of legislation, to have recycling as part of regular business, to encourage more level playing field. And you can sign the industry statement there. But even more fun, you can have a Haut in Lucas, they say that in German. So have a high striker, so you can slam with a hammer on the high striker to actually ring the bell for recycling, and that will be here on Sunday at this booth, and is traveling around the K at the moment. So every day it's in a different booth, and you can earn a sticker there with the QR code and spread the message. So that's my call to action in this panel. Thanks.
Okay, short answer. Who is next?
So I would say more than hope. I think if we look at the wind turbines and if we look at solar, in the beginning, people underestimated the impact you have over 10 years' time. And what you see is that each time people overestimate what happens in 2 years and underestimate what happens in 10 years. And I believe we're past this first 2 years in recycling. Technology is there, value chains are coming together. So I believe that ahead of 2030, we'll see a lot of capacity and a lot of recycling.
Cool. Next statement.
I have hope, and the reason is the consumer is demanding it. And whoever is able to first offer sustainable products will be rewarded by the consumer, that these products will be preferred versus the others, and that will be a self-acceleration.
Perfect. I strongly hope you're right.
I would also definitely be in the glass is half full category here. This is the largest, or one of the largest, if not the largest, plastics fair in the world. And look around you, circularity is all around us, yeah? Not just at that booth over there. So it is really something where we have a platform, a foundation, something that's growing and that's unstoppable.
Last statements.
Yeah, I think next time we meet at the K show, we'll see much, much more happening. So I have great hopes too. I'm on board. The glass is half full. It takes some time to build these plants. You don't do this in the garage, unfortunately. But I think next time when we meet at the K show, we have much, much more success stories to share.
I think a very important prerequisite is stop landfalling by today, not tomorrow, not in 2035. And I would like to also think about a little bit out of the box. What is the driver, the engine in the future? It is climate change. Let's try to motivate the circular economy as being part of the climate change to CO2 neutral production. And then it's running much quicker, because then you have all behind yourself, the industry, the politics, and the society.
Okay.
Yes, I think that the most important is today, because if we work good today and the child receive a good education today, we obtain good results in 10 years, for example, or in 15 years.
So, okay. Thank you very, 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 very much that you stayed here for such a long time. It honors us that you listened to us for 1 hour and 20 minutes. When I first got this idea of Plastics Europe to put something like a podium at 4 o'clock on the K Fair for 1 hour and 20 minutes, I said, this couldn't be a good idea. Thank you very much that you stayed here. We really hope that we gave brain food and content to you that you need, and have a great K Fair show. Thank you very, very much.